Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to start off with just a quick question. How many of you guys wore your seatbelts on the way to school today? So it's about half. It's not bad, but it could be a lot better. I took another poll in my political science class of about 73 students, and 23 of them said they did not wear their seatbelts as well. The answer should be that you guys always wear your seatbelts. I'm going to share with you guys a quick story. It was about a year ago. It was November 15th last year, actually. I was going to pick my little brother up from school, and to get to his school, you have to go on a highway. It's a one-way highway, so cars going this way, cars going that way, so you guys get the point. So on the way there, I was driving along, and I noticed the car in front of me started to swerve over to the left, to the other side of the lane. And when he swerved over, he kept going, and he actually swerved into another car, creating a head-on collision. And so my first instinct was to stop. I stopped, got out of my car, noticed that the person he hit, there was two people in that car, and there was no one in his car. And I was like, well, where's he? And I looked down the street and noticed he was on the ground about 100 yards up. And so I instantly called 911, got all that going, went over to him, and he wasn't breathing at all. They pronounced him dead before they even got to leave with the ambulance. And the next day they posted an article about it, and they said that he was in fact not wearing a seatbelt. And if he was wearing a seatbelt, he would most likely have survived that crash. So today I'm going to share with you guys a few topics on this. The first one being reason why it's important to wear your seatbelt, because it keeps you from getting thrown from your car. The second one is it's a law to wear your seatbelt. And the third one, why it's important to wear your seatbelt, because airbags are not the only source of safety. So the first one, seatbelt was originally implemented in 1955 by the Swedish automaker Volvo. Volvo invented the seatbelt due to the rising numbers of injuries and fatalities. They did various simulated crash courses and tests, and from their studies it did show that the seatbelt does in fact save lives and prevents injuries. Another study from the CDC, which was in 2014, showed that over 24,500 people died from not wearing a seatbelt, and over 2.3 million people were injured from not wearing a seatbelt. And in that same year, the CDC showed that over 13,000 people were saved from wearing a seatbelt. So the stats are there. It shows that if you do in fact wear your seatbelt, you will be saved. And there's no reason not to wear your seatbelt. My second point is wearing a seatbelt is a law. We all know that. It's a law that's followed pretty loosely, as stats have shown. Many people think that they can just get away with not wearing their seatbelt and just cruise along, which it's true. Most people do get away with it, but is it really worth it to, for one, put your life at risk, and for another reason, get a ticket? Ticket prices range from $162 to upwards of $500 in the state of California. So it takes 2 seconds to swipe it across you, and that's it. And it saves you from potentially getting hurt in an accident, and saves your bank account getting a ticket. My third point is that most people think that with technology nowadays, airbags will save you, and you don't need a seatbelt. that is extremely false. Airbags were originally placed in as a buffer between you and the car. So all the airbag is just a buffer between you and hitting your car, and the seatbelt is there to keep you in place while the airbag is deployed. The airbag is deployed at such a high rate that it does in fact, it could injure you itself. And there was a study in 2008 by the OHS, which is the Occupational Health and Safety. They did a study on spinal injuries. And in 2008, they did a study from Pennsylvania. It showed that they took 24,500 drivers, and out of those drivers that got spinal injuries, 16,500 of them were not wearing a seatbelt. And the reason they got the spinal injuries is because of the force that the airbag pushed them back on. If they were in place in their seat, they would, be constricted in their seat, and the airbag force would not push them back. So the rate of spinal injuries in the U.S. was from airbag deployment was 54% of all spinal injuries. So that's pretty high. So wearing a seatbelt is definitely worth it when it comes to just protecting your body and your safety. As I leave you guys today, I want to urge you to always buckle up. It takes 2 seconds. If the man I saw that got his fatal accident, would have worn his seatbelt, he could be here today. It does in fact change the outcome of accidents. It can prevent many injuries, and it can save your life. So always buckle up. Thank you guys.
All right, Wesley, what did you think?
I thought that the beginning was really effective and it grabbed my attention. That only half of the class was pretty interesting to me. And then I thought that he gave a good preview of his topics, and that his thesis was clear that we should always wear our seatbelts. I thought that the story was pretty effective, showing that it was a real life experience of him, and it showed him that he should be wearing seatbelts. And then I also thought that the way he used the statistics and incorporated in there, they were newer, like 2014, so it gave I made it seem like more current. And then just to improve the speech, I think that the only thing was that his legs were he was moving with every topic speech, but then he would kind of just dance around a little bit, but that was pretty much the only thing that I thought he could do better.
All right. Well, we'll start with that, since that's the only thing you saw about that. I saw one other thing about the delivery that I want to mention, but I'm going to agree with that one. I think that you do that. That's all your anxieties coming out in your feet, for the most part, and you got to kind of get over that and kind of plant yourself a little bit, and then when you move, make it purposeful as opposed to just the random sort of thing. It'll be so much more effective, and you'll come across more confidently, and it'll help you too, because it really does boost your confidence when you say, I have a plan, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm following through on that sort of thing. And then when you move deliberately, it makes you feel more in control. The constant movement, that's the anxiety coming out, but you feel less in control when you're doing that than if you do the other way. And I think most people have less anxiety when they feel like they're in control. So your option there, I think, is a little bit better. The other thing I'm going to mention is you have a tendency to look down into the carpet for information. You speak, I mean, you do look up at us pretty regularly, and you do make eye contact with the audience, and it looks like you're talking to most of the audience at some point or other during the speech. But a lot of times I'm watching you, and you're just kind of talking to the floor occasionally, and it feels like you disengage for a moment, and then you remember, I need to look at people, and then kind of disengage again. So those are the delivery issues that I'm most worried about, that you should be working on at this point. I was hoping that they'd be gone at this point, but they are obviously not. So those will be things that you'll have to, put some extra effort into. Content is pretty good. I'm flabbergasted about the number of people that weren't wearing their seatbelts today. I hardly ever, think about it. I just thought everybody did that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Statistically, the seatbelt use on the road is pretty high, but it may be that among this particular group of people, the age range and that sort of thing, people aren't in that habit. Or maybe that's a sign of rebellion. I'm not a kid anymore. My mom doesn't belt me into the seat anymore.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever the heck it is I want to do. Maybe there's an age thing that goes along with that. I don't know. I'm just... Like I said, holy criminy, I just assumed that people just did that automatically. Don't your cars make a bunch of annoying noises when you don't wear your seatbelt?
Turn up the volume on the radio.
Yeah, turn up the volume of the radio. That'll solve that problem. It won't make that noise anymore.
If you're a passenger, my car just constantly, it gets louder with the beep.
Yeah, like I said, and I assume that most people, you come from like the third generation of people who've been wearing seatbelts. I mean, the law was passed in '85 to require people to wear seatbelts. That's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And you would think at this point that your parents and maybe their parents, it's already second nature to just do that kind of thing. But I guess it's not the case, at least based on this. I generally don't like audience surveys as an attention device, but yours worked out pretty well here because you had a large number of people who weren't wearing the seatbelts. Good data in the speech. I like the fact that you dealt with a reservation argument, which is the airbag issue, because people think, well, I don't need to wear seatbelts because I've got this airbag thing to protect me. I think that the discussion of the spinal injuries feels like it's a tangent. Instead of explaining why relying on airbags alone is a bad idea, you get kind of sidetracked into this potential danger or something going off here, and it misses the point of why you should be wearing your seatbelt. So that's a little bit of a problem, but it's pretty well organized. I thought you had a good preview at the beginning of the speech, and at the end of the speech you did a good job summarizing the argument also. Thank you.